18 feet below the surface, a hidden secret lay completely undisturbed in the earth for more than 3 decades. In 1992, in this section of Ahmedabad, Farzana Dosubai Radhanpuri disappeared. Despite local inquiries, there were no traces of where she had gone. Investigators now point to her husband, Shamshuddin Musaji Kedawala. He and his family had been locked in domestic disputes with Farzana, citing deep disapproval of her lifestyle. Following her murder, the family chose a concealment site within their own property in Qutub Nagar Sayedwadi, dropping the body into a deep cesspool. At a depth of 18 feet, the remains were physically isolated from the world above. There was no surface evidence, no scent, and no lead for the police to follow. For 34 years, the ground remained undisturbed. But while the physical evidence was buried deep, the details of that night began to circulate within the family's private circles. As the decades passed, the Kedawala family lived without legal interference, yet the internal atmosphere of the household began to shift. The family reported seeing a persistent shadow in their home, a hallucination they became convinced was Farzana herself. To stop these sightings, they turned to occult practices, inviting tantrics into the home to perform rituals meant to quiet the perceived spirit. During these exorcisms, the family spoke openly about the 1992 murder. Those details were eventually overheard by individuals outside the family. These accounts eventually reached the Ahmedabad City Crime Branch, providing the first specific tip-off regarding the Sayedwadi property in over 30 years. Acting on the tip, the crime branch reopened the cold case and focused their attention on the property's drainage system. On April 29th, an executive magistrate and experts from the Forensic Science Laboratory arrived at the site to begin a targeted excavation. Investigators dug through the exact location identified in the tip-off. At the 18-foot mark, they reached the bottom of the pit and found human skeletal remains. The remains were immediately transferred to the Forensic Medicine Department at BJ Medical College for identification. Despite the age of the bones, the FSL extracted a DNA profile, comparing the genetic data against samples from Farzana's relatives. The profiling returned a positive result, officially confirming the remains belonged to Farzana Dosubai Radhanpuri. This DNA match provided the physical proof needed to connect the family's whispered accounts of a haunting to the actual events of 1992. Following the forensic confirmation, police arrested 61-year-old Shamshuddin, his brother Iqbal, and 2 other associates. They now face charges under IPC sections 302 for murder, 201 for the destruction of evidence, and 120B for criminal conspiracy. The Sayedwadi cesspool was deep enough to hide a body for 34 years, but the case was finally solved because the perpetrators could no longer live with their own silence. Science simply waited at the surface to confirm what they had already begun to admit.